Hello and welcome back to my office. Michael Drix, the tea drinking author, with a fresh cup of gold blend from Sainsbury's. Not the most exciting tea, but it is quite nice and it's refreshing. Right. I've discovered just recently that when you have a little magnetic doohickey, it can get embarrassing when you've got a steel pen next to it, because you try to pull a pen out of your pocket and then you have to start re-recording because your magnet just got stuck to the pen, and it makes a pretty horrible noise actually when you're listening to the playback. So never mind that. First of all, thank you so much to all the people who contacted me about this, my Schaeffer snorkel. As I showed you in an all too recent video, the snorkel tube itself was projecting and wouldn't go back in, and I thought, oh dear, that means something has gone horribly wrong. And it had, sort of. But I discovered a couple of videos on how to service and maintain these pens, and it's really stupidly easy. I assumed that the connection between the barrel and the section would have been shellacked or glued in some other way, but it wasn't. It was just a very tight screw fit. So I unscrewed that, and very soon I had all the working gubbins in my hands, and it was just a case of the spring had got a bit rusty, and that's all that was wrong. So I started cleaning it, polished it slightly, put a whole load of silicone grease on it, and now it is fine. Better than fine, it's absolutely beautiful. It works a dream. But I thought, the spring was pretty rusty. It may well jam up again soon. So I've got to give a little shout out to a guy called Chili P. That's CHILLIPEA, who's on eBay. Because I contacted him and said, is there anything you can do? And he posted me for £13.97 this wonderful little box. And inside the box, so he sent me this little pamphlet with his business card, all very nice. And not only that, it also has a little fly sheet of a couple of bits of information. So, vintage pens and parts. These are some of the tools that he makes and sells, which are really rather fantastic. And more than that, there's also a whole range of accessories like new ink sacs for your pens. So if you've got any desire to find out more about things you can do for an old pen that needs a bit of servicing, it's the Pendragon's Partnership, Mike and Carol. And if you want to, they've got www.vintagepensacsandparts.com. I'll put a link down the bottom. But incredibly helpful, really nice people. And I now have this wonderful little packet which includes a new sac, a new spring, and all the washers and O-rings I will need. A result. So next time I need to service this pen, I've got all the tools to do it. But in fact, what I'm thinking I might do is buy another tub of silicone grease from the man, and then look around for another old Schaeffer that doesn't function and see if I can get it working. Because that's the sort of ridiculous hobby that I enjoy. So what else has been happening? Well, I also received another package in the post. Now, this is something that's quite rare. I didn't want to mention it last time because I don't want to make you all jealous, but for the first time in 2 years, my wife and I managed to get away for 7 days. We had hoped to make it 10 days, but didn't quite work out. So we went away, and while I was away, a very delightful gentleman who has been watching this site for quite some time sent me a note saying, I'd really like your opinion on some Lamy ink. which is crystal ink in Obsidian. And being the sort of guy I am, I said, well, I'll gratefully receive and accept any gift you want to send me, because I'm just kind like that. And so this little box arrived, which is really neat, as you'd expect from a German manufacturer, with a beautifully presented little bottle of ink. Now, I haven't done anything apart from load this into a pen. It is not a glittery ink. It is not, so far as I can tell, a sheening ink. It is very much a black ink, as you'd probably guess from the name Obsidian, and it looks rather nice on the page. I have tried it with a number of different types of paper, and to be honest, it is perfectly pleasant. Now, I say that as though that's not a very positive thing. Now, I'm just looking at it again to see if there's any sort of sheening or anything. No, there isn't. Nothing I can tell. Now, this has all been written with my medium Schaeffer snorkel. It is a flat black ink with just a hint of shading, I think, but really very little. It's pretty much a flat ink. It goes down. It's thoroughly reliable. As you'd expect with the Lamy ink, it flows superbly. I've had no cold starts, no difficulties like that. With this fabulous paper, William Hanna 115 GSM, there's absolutely no feathering, no ghosting, nothing whatsoever, as you'd expect. William Hanna is fabulous paper. I have also tried it with my Paper Republic 100 GSM paper, and it is superb in that. I've even tried it on really cheap and nasty, well, nasty, it's not that nasty, but Field Notes, one of their little spiral bound doohickeys. You can see there black ink. This is Alt Goldgrün, which is in my Pineda, but if I open it up like that, absolutely no ghosting, no indication that I've written on the other side at all. It's very, very clean ink, which is surprising because, as I say, it is a jolly good, strong black ink. Is it waterproof? Let's find out. No, it's not. Does that matter? No. I've had this discussion with various people over the years. For me, waterproof is really pretty much irrelevant. There's a lot of inks which are very prone to water damage. Does it bother me? No, it doesn't. I take copious notes every day regularly, and I have had I was once out Morris dancing with friends. We were dancing at the Royal Cornwall Show. We were one of the headline acts, and we'd been going there for years, and every year we had wonderful weather, we had glorious fun, and I'm ashamed to admit that we all, every year, drank more than a gallon of beer each in a day. That sounds dreadful. These are strong beers too. They're 4.5 to 5% beers. Betty Stoggs, oh, that was one of our favourite ones. But this one year, and I should just say, if you're dancing consistently on a really hot day, not a humid day, a day when the wind's blowing, you can consume a gallon of beer and the liquid of all types just leaches away through your skin. You don't particularly get drunk, but it is essential to keep yourself lubricated. Of course, once we stopped dancing and had 2 more pints, we were all K-line, but it doesn't really matter. The main thing is, this one year, I left my tent up because we never drove afterwards, and we went on to the show and it started raining. and then it rained a lot harder, and then it rained a great deal harder, and the wind blew, and we spent the entire time in a Skinner's, God bless you Skinner's beers, in the Skinner's beer tent. And we had probably another gallon of beer, but it was enjoyable sitting there. Other stall holders were coming up. Nobody went to the show because it was so wet. So other stall holders came up with loaves of bread for us to have, and some people came in and they had food that they couldn't sell, so they were offering it cheap or free of charge. It was wonderful. Really nice community spirit. It was a lovely day until we went back to the campsite and I discovered that my tent had blown away. It was still pegged down with one peg upside down, and all of the stuff that I had inside was drenched. And the stuff I had inside included one Midori traveller's notebook, which I still have, which was soaked. And in that traveller's notebook there were 3 different notebooks. All of them had been written on with fountain pens, because I don't, as you know, carry biros or rollerballs or ballpoints. And so this notebook was completely drenched. It had been in the rain all day, and it was heavy rain. So I was a little discombobulated, I suppose. I had to put up my tent at some point, but I wasn't going to do it that night. A friend suggested that I might be more comfortable sleeping in the passenger seat of my Subaru, so I did. The dog slept in the back. She was with me. And the next day I came home slightly chastened and dried out my notebook. The first few pages were quite well dampened and all of the words had blurred. But that was about it. Nothing else really had got damaged. All the inner pages were fine. It was only the first possibly 5 or 6 pages that got quite sodden. And that persuaded me very much. I mean, that was 10-15 years ago, and that persuaded me that really there's no point worrying about waterproof inks. If it's bad enough that your notebook's going to get really ruined, those R's don't sound too good when you're sitting here alone, but if it's bad enough that the notebook's going to get completely trashed, then probably fully waterproof ink isn't going to save anything anyway. It's pointless worrying. If you're that concerned about waterproofness, you could go to an archivist's type of ink. I've used several of them, but most of them have something like shellac in them, which is going to gum up your fountain pen significantly, and I wouldn't dare use them. The only exception is using Indian ink in the Osmoroid pen I've spoken about before, which is designed for Indian ink. That seems to be perfectly all right. Any other pen you try to put Indian ink into is going to get completely wrecked. There are archival quality inks. I haven't really bothered to test them. I know Rohrer und Klingner make some. I think that Atramentis make them too. There's various different types. But even when you look at them, I think most of the time they recommend you don't use it full time in your pen. So I'm not overly bothered about waterproofness. With this, I think, yes, it might smear if you get it damp, but I think that blackness is deep enough that you're not going to have a great problem. It's certainly better, I think, than some of the other inks like Visconti Black, which is a bit of a lightweight. Quite a few of the Cult Pens dark inks are, it's difficult to tell. I mean, I really rather like the Onyx Black, which is a very deep dark black, much like this. And that seems quite reliable even when it gets a bit damp. So, but it is a matter of personal taste. If you're really concerned, then yes, you need to go to something that is more robust. For my money, this Lamy works extremely well, and I'm going to be using this with the greatest of pleasure with a snorkel and with other pens. But yes, it works really well. So I've got to say thanks very much for the kind gentleman who sent me this. I haven't got his permission to say his name, so I won't. It's always very difficult when people send you things. You never know whether they'd be happy to have their name mentioned on a YouTube video or not. Some people might be alarmed that they're going to get inundated with calls from all sorts of greedy devils saying, well, you gave some ink to Jex, why can't you send me some as well? And that's really not the point. But without permission being granted, I won't say anything, mainly because the GDPR rules are fairly robust in this country and one has to be sensible about what information one gives out. But that's that for now. Right, now I've got tons of other stuff I've got to talk about before too long. I've got some interesting things from Sinocare, which are these continual glucose monitoring devices for diabetics. They're specifically designed for those who are diabetic. Yeah, who are diabetic, basically. I've got a complete mental blankness there. I've also got a fascinating couple of drinking vessels which I'm looking forward to sharing with you, called Couples, oddly enough. And yes, they really blew me away. In the very near future, I'm also getting another fountain pen. There's a delightful German company who are going to send me a couple of their pens to review, not to keep, to review. And Ashera pens are astonishingly attractive. I recommend you go and look up the company Ashera, A-S-H-E-R-A, because they're just fantastic. They're brilliant looking. So I'm really enthusiastic about the idea of getting my hands on a couple of them. Of course, in the meantime, I've got a new book coming back tomorrow. Yep, tomorrow, which has to be edited. Pilgrim's War, bloody good book. First of my Holy War series. That's going to be coming out in December. I've then got to write another book before the end of the middle of September. That's got to be done in a bit of a hurry because immediately after that I'm giving the Peter Robinson Memorial Lecture at the Richmond Festival. Then I've got to, 2 days after that, go off down to Torquay and join the Smithsonian Mystery Lovers England tour. I'm going to be the expert on that. Me, an expert. Shocking idea. But that is all for now. So thanks a lot for your attention. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button, the subscribe and the notification bell. And if you really want to be keen, you can always join my Patreon or just send me a cup of coffee. I'll always gratefully receive a cup of coffee. But apart from that, thanks a lot for watching. Take care of yourselves and I'll speak to you soon. Take care.